Hey, everybody, welcome back to this episode of Think Business. Looking forward to talking to guests who've been on the show before. And Karen, you've been on a couple times and co-host with me as well. Karen Larson and Jamie Saunders, who are the co-founders of Clear Brand Strategy. I'm really excited to talk today because I love talking about strategy. I love talking about branding, and I love talking about clear messaging. And so I really love your name. Right? Clear brand strategy. I mean, I always say you want to spoon feed things, you want to younger things down, you want to make things so obvious. And that really does the trick. So welcome both of you, and thanks for coming back on the show. Let's talk about, we're sitting here, it's April 21st. You guys were on, I think about 5 months ago, maybe together, and 4 or 5 months ago. Excuse me. And, it's hard to believe that we're almost kind of in the summer, and companies need to be thinking about branding, in my opinion, more every day than ever before. And I don't think that's going to change throughout this entire decade. And so what are some of the things as we're kind of, I'm going to say, coming out of this pandemic, right? Many people will say we're not in a pandemic anymore. We're actually in an endemic, the end of this. What should people be thinking about when it comes to branding? And I just want to emphasize this. When the pandemic hit a year ago, it was, I think, March 17th when the world kind of shut down. A lot of companies, I shouldn't say a lot, but many companies cut their marketing and branding budget. The smart companies, right, doubled and tripled their brand and marketing dollars because they knew it was the time to really get into the the consumer's new mind. That new mind is still shaping itself. Mm-hmm. So how should people be thinking about branding today?
I guess I'll get started. I think
right,
that
let's start with you. Yeah.
Okay. I think that first of all, it's not something that can be ignored. It has to be.
Yeah.
You have to be out there. You have to be on social, and your website content has to be up to date. But most importantly, I think especially with the pandemic, you have to be authentic. Everybody just wants to be feel connected to you and your brand. And the sales guys are out there doing their thing, salespeople out there doing their thing, selling. But if they're not feeling some sort of connection to your brand, they're going to go to another brand that does.
Right.
So our goal is to break down what that authenticity is and deliver it through design and content.
Yeah. So let's dive into that, because the word authenticity and authentic gets thrown around a lot. And sometimes I think people, they know what it means, but it almost is becoming kind of like this word that people just kind of use, right? But I want to dive deeper into that, because being authentic is being clear in your brand message. It is being able to connect emotionally with your client or prospect consumer. But what I think the hardest part about people being authentic is the courage to actually be themselves and be authentic. So let's just talk about that. Jimmy, maybe you can talk about that as far as, just the courage of putting yourself out there. Because in today's world of branding, you have to put yourself as part, you are the products one way or another. Yeah.
I 100% agree. And I think the beauty of this moment, if you're looking for little rainbows along the way of the last year, is that we have really opened the doors to ourselves in our home. There is no other way to be right now than your authentic self. I've been on Zoom meetings with clients who have babies sitting on their desk. I've seen cats wander through the background, dogs barking at the doorbell. I mean, you're in my home
any minute. Yeah,
you're in my home, and there's no other place. I've got to be authentic, because this is where I'm most comfortable, and I've now invited my business home with me. So I think there's no other way to be right now. I really particularly enjoy seeing people in their natural habitat, somewhat, and a little bit looser. I think we're going to start to see dress codes change, and people become more relaxed and more comfortable being seen outside of suits and always buttoned up and ready to go. I mean, we've seen people who haven't been able to get their hair done in 6 months, and growing beards and just doing all kinds of things that, you look at these people and that you're all in it together. I know that sounds so cheesy, but we're all kind of doing the same thing, and never in our history, I don't think we're all in the same moment at the same time, no matter where you are. So, I think it's been forced on us. So now I think the challenge is, how do you carry that forward into the next phasing, like you said, of reopening, reinventing yourself, bringing yourself back out into society. Is the handshake a thing anymore? Are we going to hug? Are we going to have drinks together? I mean, people are going to have a bunch of different ways of going about this, which is awesome, because that's what makes us all unique, right? So I think, finding that tone that indicates that you're understanding, you're empathetic, you get where people are coming from. I don't think it's that hard right now, because you don't have to reach that far for it. It should be right there.
It's right there. And I love what you're talking about. It's interesting. I had a breakfast meeting today, which was like the first breakfast meeting I actually had in a restaurant, and saw my client. We shook hands, and it was like this, it wasn't immediate like it normally is, but it was great. It was great. It felt safe. It felt great. I want to talk about tone, right? Because that's, I think, how people read things, interpret things, receive things, it's all about tone, right? Intention behind the tone and what the tone is. Talk a little bit about just tone in general, like finding the right rhythm and tone and frequency of what you do is really, really important, and takes a lot of time. And I think it's so simple, it's complicated, right? Which is why I love doing this podcast and interviewing people every day, because I'm interviewing people, I'm a business coach. I work with successful people who are stuck, and I get them unstuck. So I get to interview people all day that will help me in my mission to get people unstuck. And people need mentors and coaches of all types. And this is one that I think gets overlooked by many, because they think, maybe I can do it myself, or maybe we can pull someone in HR to do this, or that person has an extra, 2 hours a week, or this person has no extra hours, but we're going to put 3 extra hours a week on them, and they'll be able to. But that's not effective branding. And so specialists like you are so important to take an outside look, from my perspective, knowing you two, working with you two, to say, hey, here's what you're trying to do, and here is so much more behind the tone. Can you talk on that, Karen?
Yeah, I 100% agree. And Jamie and I just talked about this because we just experienced this yesterday. We have a client that it's a corporate client that is trying to convey somewhat of a complex message, and this is exactly how we came up with our company name, Clear Brand Strategy. People need to understand what you're trying to say. Clients are going to understand what you're trying to say. Even if they've business.
Karen, you're breaking up a smidge. So I just maybe like the cycle. Maybe it's just like so sometimes you get like a wave and like you're in it. So you're saying important things, right? Because I think you were saying you got to be clear, because if you don't understand, your people won't understand.
Correct.
Okay.
So our job as outside consultants, brand and content consultants, is to listen to your problem, listen to your client's problem, and really break it down into a very clear message. We've been doing this a lot with information graphics for some clients. And the whole goal is to quickly break down a concept and visually and through the content illustrate what that concept is. And the tone is everything. The tone has to be clear. Nowadays, and it can't be, I'm thinking of another customer who we actually went and audited their site, and we found that from our perspective, and it's a business that we do a lot of work with, and from our perspective, the content was very it was just a little too high level, or maybe a little too esoteric, and we were making recommendations to tone the message down into a clear, more concise message. And this is just, I think, from an outside perspective, it's what we do best.
Yeah,
we've been doing this for a long time, and we work within a lot of different industries, but when it comes down to it, it has to be a clear message.
Yeah.
Can I add something to that, John?
Listen, this is for sure, of course. You never have to ask.
You mentioned something about mentoring.
Yeah.
And to me, I think it is important when you're working with a client to almost take on that role and not be afraid to help coax them or work through the situation with them, because, you know, they're not living in your space every single day. So I'm on social media, I'm seeing what's out there. I'm expected to keep up with the trends on, you know, what's happening where and how to best, you know, use those tools to market for my clients. That's not their job. They're busy working on product development and other things, as they should be. So right. If somebody is spending the money to bring us in and work with them, I feel a certain responsibility to put my hand up when suggestions are being made or things are being said that maybe, you know, that's what they thought the strategy was coming in, but I feel like we could take it better or go a different direction and get better results. I think part of, you know, what we're doing is mentoring. It's kind of like going to the hairdresser. You're not just getting your hair cut. You're having a, you know, psychology session sometimes there where you're purging a lot of information. We wear many hats with our clients. So I think, you know, putting your hand up, making sure that you're saying, hey, I'm not sure if that's the best way to use this information. Let's get it out there in another way, really walking them through it and making sure they understand what you're doing, you know, I think it's going to be really helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and I think sometimes it's important to remember that there is a difference between, you know, like as a business coach, I'm coaching, mentoring, and teaching, sometimes all within the same moment, as you are, right? Mm-hmm. Coaching is bringing the best out of someone. You know, mentoring is kind of sharing experiences, and teaching is kind of a combination of both. And I think sometimes, you know, people kind of confuse that, and it's so important to have all three when you're talking to companies like yours. I want to talk about, when it comes to branding, you know, we've talked about clarity, we've talked about tone, we've talked about things of that nature. I want to talk about consistency, because I think that's one of the, you know, people, I was actually meeting with a client this morning, and we were talking about, you know, there are certain things that you do today, you see today. There are certain things you do today, you plant the seeds, and you see it sprout 3 months or 6 months from today. Branding is one of those things, right? Mm-hmm. I remember when I was 23, I started an internet company, and we were fortunate enough to be in a lot of publications. And we would get calls 2 years later. I saw you in such and such, or, you know, and it always amazed me first, you know, seeing it firsthand, the life something like that has, the power of branding. Today, 20 some years later, we have to be in front of people more consistently because there's so many mediums to communicate with people. So how do you define consistency when it comes to your branding campaign? Because to me, it's something, if you're in business, you can never stop.
Right. Well, I think that there's two different tracks, because there's the track of visual and message consistency, that has to happen. And that's an upfront thing, setting standards, setting the overall brand standards. If you don't have that those core guidelines to go by, then things aren't going to be consistent. But then once you have that in place, the consistency that has to happen for putting that message out there on a regular basis all the time, setting up that content calendar and creating content that is consistently in front of the customers. Because you're right, if you're not out there, you will be forgotten.
Right.
And the people the shiny objects are gonna win. And Jamie can speak to that even further, I'm sure.
Well,
because I feel like, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, the average human being has an attention span of less than 7 seconds of a goldfish. It takes 17 times to see things before you even start seeing it. So I just wanted, so Jamie, sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're fine. I was just going to say, if you get back to using the word clear, for all of the topics that we've discussed today, I think it needs to be very clear to somebody quickly what your brand is, So if they're on your Twitter channel, they're on your Instagram, they're on your Pinterest, they're on your website, they're getting an email, whatever it is, they need to quickly be able to orient themselves and know, I'm talking with so-and-so, or I see so-and-so. And so having that color palette, having that logo, having those things, straight up in similar positions each time, so somebody just begins over time to recognize, oh, that's, AT&T, or, oh, that's Coca-Cola, those things, their colors, their branding, you see it and you recognize it. That's what we try to help our clients through, is developing materials that over time, strategically, it's very clear that it's their corporate identity.
And what I love about what you're talking about, when you talk about people need to orient themselves, you have to help people not think. And so through consistent branding strategies, if you can take the thinking out of something and the association can happen even a millisecond faster, then you're buying real estate in your prospect and your client's mind, right?
Yeah. And then you're adding value to your own, brand.
Correct. So. Yeah. It's so important. And consistency builds up. I got a Facebook reminder yesterday, from Facebook of something I posted. And I posted a year ago, April 20th, for my podcast, the one we're on right now, Think Business, over 200 episodes. Well, a year later, April 20th, as of yesterday, I'm over 910 episodes.
Wow.
Because when the pandemic hit, I'd been building content. I turned my podcast into a 7-day-a-week podcast because I had all this content I'd been building. And then I started doing about 5 to 9 lives a week on top of that. And so, but my point of it is I was blown away. I couldn't believe, wow, that's a big growth in a year, but it was just one day at a time. It was like one podcast, and everything compounds is my point. Mm-hmm. We see everything compound, and all you have to do is a little bit every single day for it to grow year over year, month over month, day over day. And I think that consistency also is a selling point, right? It's by people seeing you, they say, wow, this company's really consistent, right? And so just talk a little bit about just that, and then I want to move into another topic, but how people consistently become consistent and the investment and the mindset that they need to have when they start this process.
Jamie, you go.
Yeah. Okay. I think Karen and I were just talking about this too. Ironically, you're making this investment. You're asking us to build materials for you. We're putting together a calendar, and then it's sometimes there's this moment of I don't know if it's a budget constraint or control issues at the client level where you don't get the full picture. So we're creating all this stuff, you're investing in all these things, and then they don't see the light of day. They don't end up out into the world. And my point is, if you're investing in these materials and you're investing in the process of building a calendar and putting out, things, that extra 5 minutes, I think you alluded to it earlier, that's not somebody's job. They don't get rewarded on it. It's not a part of, their benefits package, where all of a sudden, if you post 5 things per month, you're going to get this because of it. No, it's just like an extra thing that somebody has to do. I think if people understood the value of then taking that next step and putting it out there, and then consistently putting it out there, and then it becomes second nature, and then it becomes just what you do, there's a big value in that. So making sure that the client is also investing in the time spent is something we focus on right up front, just to make sure that they understand there is, we're relying on you to get this out unless you hire us to do the whole thing. And I'm not advocating for one or the other. I'm just saying, understand the realities so you can be consistent.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's okay to tell people, if we're experts, you're better off hiring us. You can do it yourself, but that's not the best use of your time. We all have about 2,400 hours a year that we work, give or take. And so do you want to spend your 2,400 hours a year posting or doing leading activities that are going to grow your business and be much more productive and proper, right? People ask me all the time, how do you do it? How do you post so much? How do you do so much? And it's very easy. I say, the way I post so much is I don't post my own stuff. So I have a team of people that do all my posting. I just create content in bulk, and then they're able to kind of do it. So that would
you're focusing on what you can do best.
Correct. I just want to be.
And that's what. And that, because we find, like Jamie said, we're hired to create all this great content and beautiful content, but then it sits in somebody's email box because they can't get to posting it.
Right. Invest in yourselves, people. Invest in yourselves. You must. Companies must. That's why I want, I wanted to focus on this, because the mindset needs to be, this is an investment. You want to double your business. I talk a lot on the show, double your asks. You want to double your business, do your marketing and branding every day. Be consistent in posts. So, you got to invest in yourself, and that's a mindset that people have to get in front of. All right, let's move on to this topic for a minute. When we talked many months ago, you had started this business together. You each have successful businesses, and you collaborated to build this business. How is, for all the entrepreneurs out there who are saying, hey, maybe there's a collaboration in here and a business we can build together. What are some advice and things that you've learned in hindsight, on the journey that can help other people?
You want to go, or you want me to get?
I think we both agree. Okay, I'm in Michigan and Jamie's in Georgia. So Zoom calls are just a given for us.
Yeah.
And we are shocked. I think we're both shocked as to how similar our work ethic is, how similar it is when we need downtime. We can respect each other as far as we've learned is, and I think I can speak for both of us, is that I don't think either one of us wants to do it without each other. We are so together, and I've been just kind of along the way for the years, but no partners like me. We both complement each other with one because of our
experience. I'm going to pause you for one second. You're breaking up a little bit, so maybe I'll let Jamie talk for a minute, and then maybe you're kind of, because you're it's just going in and out a little bit. But I hear you guys respect each other. I think I picked up on the good points. It's just, Jamie, what are some of your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think we, like you said, we both still have our own separate clients at times and our own separate creative outlets that we, take advantage of. But when we work together, you've got that camaraderie that I think I was missing, and a lot of people can relate to that now that you're kind of isolated at home, and I need someone to bounce things off of. And I think, to me, the most special part of it is, yes, we have our own things that we specialize in. And that's why we pair up nicely together. We're kind of yin and yang in some aspects, but that doesn't mean that we don't collaborate in other areas. So if I get stuck writing content because something just seems I can't get out of the rut, I'll call Karen up and be like, hey, this is where I'm at with this. I'm not sure, where to go from here. And she'll be like, oh, and she'll pop out some statement, and then I'm like, oh, okay, good. Now I can just run with it, and we hang up the phone, and vice versa. She's stuck on a design, and I have a creative eye from my past life in corporate branding and, marketing. And I can look at her and say, yeah, that looks awesome. Keep going with that. It's just really nice to have that cheerleader in your back pocket, who's there kind of helping you through it when you're not going solo. Being an entrepreneur is rough because you don't have anyone to bounce things off of. My family does not want to hear about the things I write about on a daily basis.
Yeah. It's great. It's great watching how, it's been fun interviewing you both through the year and watching the growth of the business, seeing the beautiful work that you are doing. And it's great. It's so important. Tell everybody who your ideal clients are and how they can connect with you.
Jamie, you go, because I'm breaking up.
Right. We don't want to forget that one phone number, right? That one number. Yeah.
So you can go to clearbrandstrategy.com. We put together our own website based on kind of who we want to be working with and who we work best with. Right now, we seem to really be landing in this corporate marketing, which I love because I came from corporate marketing, and it's fun to be on the other side of it, as Karen has done with branding. She's sat in both chairs also. And then professional services, wealth advisors, attorneys, accountants. And recently we've been enjoying working with small business owners locally in both Michigan and Georgia. So helping these small businesses recover from the pandemic and find new ways to bring traffic now that people are going out again. It's going to be really important. You alluded to it earlier, and we should be thinking about it now. How are you going to welcome them back in? What's your strategy for getting people through the door and buying things in your store or your restaurant or wherever you're working? So we have a big passion for that.
I love it.
With those types of people. Yeah.
I love it. All right, last question, quick speed round. You ready?
Okay.
Karen, we'll start with you. One question speed round. Karen, what's one thing you learned about yourself working with Jamie?
I definitely work harder with a partner. I feel the sense of responsibility towards somebody else. I've always worked hard, but I work faster. Yeah.
All right, good. And Jamie, same question. What's one thing you learned about yourself working with Karen?
Oh, you took a good answer, Karen. No, I really enjoy, same. I really enjoy having a partner. I think I work better, smarter, faster, and I'm more accountable to myself and my clients, just having somebody reliant on me for the information.
Yeah.
So
I think we all need accountability, and we all kind of need that, that sometimes that person to bounce things off of. So it's really important. Well, I can't thank you both enough. Karen Larson, Jamie Saunders, co-founders of Clear Brand Strategy, clearbrandstrategy.com. Think community, if they can help you or you know somebody who can use them, please recommend. Branding is key. So important. So important. So, all right. Karen, Jamie, thanks so much. I appreciate your time. Think community, thanks so much. Hold on the line, guys. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.